I'm James. I'm 17, and I'm pretty sure I'm a psychopath.
Hello and welcome back to Nerd Soup. I'm Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, here with another television review. Today we'll be talking about the end of the effing world. Hey, can I say You sure? Well, why not? What even is monetization? Alright, whatever. The end of the effing world is the story of two teens who decide to run away from their boring and difficult lives. Seems like a pretty straightforward teenage romance, right? Except I forgot to mention that James, one of the main characters, is a self-diagnosed psychopath and wants to murder Alyssa, his girlfriend. Kind of. Well, not really. Anyway, the first half of this review will be spoiler-free and pretty vague for those who haven't seen it yet, and I'll get into some spoiler talk and give my thoughts on that ending and the prospect of a second season. Now, I watched a trailer of the show and saw some positive things being said, and seeing that it was only 8 20-minute episodes, I figured, what the hell, I'll give it a shot. 2 hours and 40 minutes later, I came away from it completely blown away. It's a dark, comedic take on a classic coming-of-age story that nails all the dramatic cues of great television. Everything from the acting, the writing, the directing was great. Even the score fit perfectly with the story. The short runtime comes with some pros and cons. On one hand, there isn't much filler, so the show moves at a faster pace. At times it feels rushed, but I didn't mind. The characters of Alyssa and James really drive the show. Alyssa is an unapologetic, brash teenager with a filthy mouth that says whatever pops into her head. And James, well, James just goes along with things. Oh yeah, and he spends most of his free time murdering small animals and fantasizing about killing a human. Now, I know that may turn off some people out there, but the James character is written very well. His character plays into the dark comedic tone that the director is trying to convey. You kind of like James and hope that he can change. The development of both James and Alyssa is done brilliantly, and the use of voiceover really adds to their characters. We can see what's going on inside their heads, and I love how James's voiceover is in retrospect while Alyssa's stays in the present. The writing in the show was a clear standout in my opinion. The dialogue fit with the characters so well. It has so many great quotes and one-liners, and the character's decision makes sense given the circumstances. There are consequences to their actions, and the show doesn't gloss over them. The supporting cast is fine. Eunice and Terry, the two detectives, have a fun dynamic. I also found James's dad to be very funny. He didn't deserve James's animosity, but, maybe do a better job raising your son so he doesn't turn out to be a psychopath. I don't know, just a thought. Alyssa's family adds to her character backstory, the scumbag stepfather and the aloof mother, but the narrative is focused on James and Alyssa and their relationship, so a condensed supporting cast can be forgiven. Alright, now let's get into some spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, come back when you're done watching, or don't, I don't care. That's not nice. Alright, let's just jump to that ending because that's what everyone is talking about. Initially, I anticipated that James would indeed kill Alyssa because one of my friends called me freaking out about the ending, but the story evolves into something more tragic. James starts to change as the journey spirals into chaos, and a happy ending seems to be impossible. His mind starts changing between wanting to kill Alyssa to reflecting on their time together. After killing Alyssa's attacker, he reflects to himself that he thinks he is not indeed a psychopath after all. What started as a rebellious runaway from home story turns into something tragic with real consequences. Alyssa decides to leave James, which gives both characters time to reflect on their journey together before reuniting at the diner, which was one of the standout scenes of the season, capped off with the two holding hands and Alyssa saying, true to form, not your weird one. This all culminates to what is a polarizing ending. Like I mentioned before, actions have consequences, and this story isn't one that ends with them getting away with what they have done. Manslaughter, robbery, grand theft auto, to name a few. It all catches up to them with the end, justified or not. Now, I for one really like the ending. Not everything has a happy ending. Sure, you can blame the character's decision-making for what happened. They could have given up, turned themselves in, and hopefully the sympathetic Eunice, aka Yara Greyjoy, would have been able to help them. But their decisions are in the moment and expected of two teenagers on the run. Impulsive, sure, but it's not easy for someone to give up on something that could potentially make them happy. For the first time, they're feeling something they've never felt before. Both Alyssa and James are having these new feelings, and it's hard for that to be taken away from them. And Alyssa knocking out Eunice is an example of this, and James's decision to take the blame is an example of James sacrificing himself for the one person who could possibly change him, or has changed him. As far as a season 2 is concerned, I'm pretty split. The ambiguous ending leaves it open, I guess, but I lean towards the side of it just ending. James making the ultimate sacrifice for someone that he once dreamed of killing is a bittersweet end to his character arc. And what would a season 2 even be about? James survived and they reunited after he gets out of jail? Where would the story go unless they decide that James is dead and we follow Alyssa as she tries to move on from these events, which I wouldn't mind as she was the best part of the show, but sometimes a good story just has to end whether you agree with it or not instead of dragging it out. But like with anything, if it can be done well, then do it. Well, let me know what you thought of the show, on the ending, and what are your thoughts on a second season. Thank you for watching, and be sure to come back next time for a steaming hot bowl of nerd soup.
Moby Dick. Oh, hi there. Thought I wasn't going to be in the video, huh? Well, I'm here. I'm everywhere. I'm behind you! Today's video was brought to you by Audible, which is my favorite thing in the world. The new year is a great time to start new habits, and going deeper into stories is something I plan to do this year with the help of Audible. The new way to read books is to listen to them, and Audible has an enormous catalog of audiobooks, original audio shows, news shows, comedy shows, and more. By using the audible.com-nerdsoup link, you can download a free book right now, and also receive a free 30-day trial. You can also claim this offer by texting NerdSoup to 500-500. Download the Audible app and you can listen to your new book while you're working out at the gym, and then continue listening on the car ride home. You can even pick up where you left off by connecting your Audible account to your Amazon Echo device. Alexa, what's the weather like? Alexa? Alexa, don't embarrass me in front of company. We're fighting right now. A couple of my personal recommendations would be 1, Call Me By Your Name, and 2, Ready Player One. Both books have inspired feature films, so they're great options for book lovers and movie lovers alike. Call Me By Your Name was one of my favorite movies of the year, and it inspired me to read the book that it was based on. And as the old cliche goes, the book was definitely better than the movie. It's a fantastic love story about two individuals who are really discovering their internal desires. It's also a great listen because it's narrated by actor Armie Hammer, who also stars in the feature film adaptation. And as for my second recommendation, Ready Player One, which has been described as the geek Bible for nerds. Seriously, if you consider yourself a nerd, you're almost obligated to read this book. It's packed with pop culture references. You're gonna love it. And author Ernest Cline builds one of the most imaginative fictional universes I've ever seen. The book is actually narrated by actor Will Wheaton, who does a great job of immersing the listener in this epic sci-fi adventure. These are two of my favorite books, and the narration only improves the story. Also, if you're familiar with our channel, you know that we're Game of Thrones freaks, so we'd also recommend the Audible versions of A Song of Ice and Fire. All 5 books are narrated by British actor Roy Dotrice, who played Halland the Pyromancer in Game of Thrones. Remember this guy? He was a nut. If you become an Audible member, every month you'll get a credit towards a new book of any price to add to your digital library and keep forever. And if you don't like it, you can swap it out, no questions asked. So if one of my recommendations didn't work for you, just get another. You can click the audible.com-nerdsoup link to get a free book and a 30-day trial. Or you can also text NerdSoup to 500-500.